All right, I'm going to start with pros. So, pro number one is the benefits that the government offers to families. As a lot of you probably know, maybe you don't, Korea it has the lowest birth rate of developed countries in the world right now. So I think the child rate is like 1.06 children per woman, which means that it's actually not enough to sustain a population. So the government has really been pushing for women and for just families in general to become bigger and for people to have more kids. Even have one kid would be great. So some of the things that they're doing are offering amazing benefits to families. So some of the things that we get free childcare, which is huge because in Canada, it would be costing us almost upwards of $1,500 a month to send one infant to daycare. We get it for free in Korea. Something else that we get in Korea that's great is a discount on our electrical bill for having a child. We also get discounts on things like their car tax that we had to pay when we got a new car. We were also able to get a sum of money. So once your child is born, the government just sends you a check of about $1,000, sometimes more or less, depending on the city that you live in, just to kind of say congratulations and here you go. Here's a little bit of help. They also do monthly payments per child. So we get about $300 a month per child. If your child goes to daycare, then that is waived and you get the free daycare instead. But that's also another benefit if you're keeping your child at home. Also, the second thing I would say is just the friendliness of Korean people and how baby friendly and community based raising a child is here. So in Canada, when we were visiting last year and we went out, we were at a restaurant or we were in the mall or wherever we were in public, and I used to get really, really stressed out because I felt like as soon as my daughter was crying or she was like making a little bit of noise or I had to breastfeed or anything, I felt like everyone was just staring at me. And like I just felt like it was very uncomfortable and like people didn't really want us out in public or like I was kind of bothering them, I guess. But in Korea, when you go out, people, like if your child is crying or if your child's upset or screaming or laughing or running around, people here are so supportive and they actually love it. I have been at a restaurant where I was trying to eat and my daughter was being really fussy, and one of the workers at the restaurant, one of the elder ladies, she just came over, grabbed my baby, walked around with her for like 45 minutes, told me not to worry, just eat your food. So I got to sit down and have a meal while she kind of took care of my baby. It was amazing, and I feel like that's not something that you really get anymore in Canada. And so I love that community feeling. Same if you're on the subway and your baby's upset. The older people love to like make faces and talk to them and make them laugh and entertain them. So you really don't have to worry that much, and it's awesome. Also, breastfeeding. Breastfeeding is obviously something that you may choose to do or not to do. I chose to breastfeed for the first 6 months. And when you're out in public, you can either breastfeed just out wherever you are. I used to breastfeed at the table. I used to breastfeed on benches in subway stations. I breastfed everywhere. Nobody ever looked twice. Nobody ever said any rude comments. If anything, I had a lot of people who thought it was awesome and who like had words of encouragement for me. And when I switched to bottles and formula, I actually got more questions as to why I wasn't breastfeeding. So they're very pro breastfeeding. And for people who may not be comfortable with breastfeeding in public, there's breastfeeding rooms all over Korea. Every subway station, every department store, every grocery store, everywhere you go, they have these baby rooms. And in these baby rooms, you have change tables, you have a microwave so you can heat food, you have a breastfeeding room, you have hot water, cold water for people who are formula feeding. Some of them have free play areas, free toys, high chairs. Some of them even have cribs so your baby can take a nap. I mean, like, it's amazing. And I think I went to 2 places in Canada that had rooms like this. And all the other times when I would say, oh, where can I change my baby? They would point me to the bathroom, and I'd have to change my child in a bathroom stall, or I would have to wait till we got in the car and change her there. And so I think that that's another really big convenience and like pro-baby thing in Korea. Finally, I would say just the things they have for kids in general. There are kids cafes on every corner where you can bring your kid, pay like $10 for an hour or 2 hours, and they can just go crazy. You have a coffee and you just sit there and relax. They're everywhere, absolutely everywhere. You can't even walk a block without finding one. So those are super awesome and really convenient. There are toy rental shops. So the government has set up these like shops where you can go, and I think you pay like $10, and then you can just like rent toys as much as you want. You can keep them for like a week or 2 weeks, return them, pick out a new toy, and it's all like provided by the government. So like that's super great. Also, there are tons of like kid-friendly areas. So like when you go to restaurants, they all have little playrooms that have older ladies who are actually in there to watch your kids, so you can like eat while they play. There are kids seats at all the restaurants pretty much, cafes, things like that. I would just say like in general, it's a very baby friendly environment for the most part. So for all these reasons and more, we decided to stay in Korea while our kids were still young, take advantage of the government benefits, take advantage of the kid friendliness and the community-based feeling of having a child, and also just like having things for them to do. I feel like that's a little bit harder to come by in Canada. I know there are like play cafes and things like that, but I think they're just not as accessible as they are here, and they're not as widespread. So those are sort of the pros that I have about why we decided to stay and raise a child in Korea. Also, from a multicultural perspective, we got a lot of extra sort of like benefits and things for being a multicultural family. So like we'll be higher up on the daycare lists, like the waiting lists, because we are multicultural. Daycares have to stay open earlier. They open earlier and they stay open later for us, because they know that I don't have my mother to help me take care of my kids. So if I'm a working mom, I might need the daycare to be open later. So that's the benefit of being in a multicultural relationship here. We also get some extra monetary benefits from the government for that, and just lots of things. So those are my pros, and now I'm going to make a cons list for you guys. So here are my cons about having raising children in Korea. I would say the first one would probably be air pollution. That's the biggest one. As probably most of you know, the air pollution sucks in Korea. A lot of it comes from China, but also Korea are to blame. Like, Korea's to blame as well. They create a lot of pollution with diesel cars and charcoal energy and just like lots of bad things that do need to change. So I would say that air pollution is a huge factor in us always debating, should we move back, should we stay, should we move back? Obviously, baby's health is important. Also, just being stuck inside with a baby really sucks, because sometimes the air gets so bad you can't go outside. So that's a huge factor. I would say another negative is probably the fact that we get so much attention when we go out. Being a multicultural family, And even when I go out alone with my daughter and my husband's not with us, everybody wants to see us, take pictures of her. They always talk about how, like, she's so beautiful and she's cute and her nose is perfect so it won't need surgery. And it's just like, it's a lot of attention on her and it's a lot of attention on us. And like, sometimes it's nice. Like I said, it's great, the whole community feeling. But sometimes I just want to go out and be a mom who can go out and just be another mom in public, not the foreign mom who's married to a Korean guy with a mixed baby. It sometimes becomes a little bit overwhelming. Also, everyone wants to give you input. How to raise your child, what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, how you can do things better. So these are also all things that when you're going out and it's always happening, it really starts to take its toll on you. Another negative I would say is the education system, obviously, as right now we don't have to worry about it, but as Nari gets older, she starts public school. My husband really doesn't want her to be in public school in Korea. It's very competitive. There's a lot of students. It's very, it's based a lot of memorization, not actually educating. There's hagwons, which are after school programs that kids are almost like required to be in, because if you're not in it but all your classmates are, then you're not competitive. Kids study 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., 10 p.m., even in elementary school. So we don't really want that for our kids either, which is why, again, we always debate. Do we stay? Do we go? If we stay, how can we avoid this? So that's probably another one. Of course, missing my family and my mom, especially my mom. Once you have a kid, or once you have a baby, a kid, and you're living away from your parents, it gets really hard. Like, I want my mom here. I want her to be here to help me, teach me, you know, like, be a part of my kid's life. So that's really hard. I'm very fortunate that she can travel to Korea every year, and she'll be here in 2 months for the birth of my second daughter. But still, like, once a year is not anything compared to having her like down the road or a couple hours away. So that's another negative, I would say, just like about living abroad in general. And probably the other one, like the last one, would just be actually, I don't really know what else. I mean, for the most part, everything's really positive. I think that it's just like there's those few things that always make us second guess. My husband working all the time is one, working late. For example, this week, he left on Thursday morning at 7:30 a.m. and he still hasn't come home yet, and it's Friday at 4 p.m. and he's not going to come home till tomorrow, so that's 48 hours working straight. If we were in Canada, there would be labor laws against that, so he would have to come home so he could spend more time with us. But these are all things that, you know, we always go back and forth with. There's pros and cons of living everywhere. So, yeah, I hope that this video helped you guys and you learned a little bit and it was interesting. And please like the video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Instagram. Ask me any questions. Give me any pointers on anything that you want to see. And thank you for watching.